Newly elected Governor Jerry Brown is warning Californians to be prepared for a tough budget for tough times. His comments come as no surprise to those who have been warning that California has been living beyond its means since the go-go days of the dot-com boom pushed state revenues to unsustainable levels. Now, the state's $1.7 trillion economy is crippled by a severe recession, and the one-time budget gimmicks that have papered over the problem in the past are no longer available. Expectations are that 2011 will usher in further deep cuts to education and social services and less generous pensions, as well as a push to unload many current state responsibilities onto local governments. As a result, the politics of the future may be fought at the local level, as the state tosses the hot potato decisions to cut services or increase taxes to mayors and city councils. Can Governor Brown, who has pledged to cut spending, reform pensions, give more authority to local governments, and ease regulations, enact such plans in the face of reluctant Democrats and suspicious Republicans? And how will these changes impact issues important to the San Joaquin Valley, like water, high-speed rail, and economic growth? We'll discuss the political outlook in California for 2011 and how it will likely impact the San Joaquin Valley with folks from the region's leading newspapers. Jim Boren, the editorial page editor of the Fresno Bee; Dianne Hardisty, former editorial page editor for the Bakersfield Californian; Paul Hurley, the editorial page editor from the Visalia Times Delta; and Judy Sly, the editorial page editor from the Modesto Bee.
From Fresno, the Maddy Report, with Executive Director of the Maddy Institute, Mark Kepler.
Some say California has become ungovernable. The last 10 years in Sacramento is offered as proof, beginning with a recall of Governor Gray Davis and continuing each year with a new, bigger budget crisis and an ongoing recession, a crippling housing market, and double-digit unemployment. The new governor and legislature will have no shortage of issues to address. What will this new political landscape mean for the state and the valley? We're fortunate to be joined by four of the region's most respected political observers to try to answer that question. Jim Boren, the editorial page editor of the Fresno Bee; Dianne Hardisty from the Bakersfield Californian; Paul Hurley from the Visalia Times Delta; and Judy Sly from the Modesto Bee. Welcome to all of you. Well, before we get started on the issues going forward, let's take a look back for a second at Governor Schwarzeneggar. So, Jim, I want to start with you. What's the governor's legacy?
Well, he didn't fix the budget, although he tried, didn't get any help from the legislature. But I think his big legacy is going to be political reform. He finally got redistricting reform through for legislative and congressional districts. We just added the congressional districts for an independent commission. And he's got open primaries, which I think will moderate politics. The one other thing is that he did make a pass at pension reform and made some improvements there. But I think the political reform is going to be his real legacy.
Dan?
He came into office in the recall in 2003, you know, with a celebrity and a lot of hope and a lot of promises. But then, when the economy was booming, he certainly, came through with the landmark AB 32. We became the leader in global warming fight, and then. And then he put on that massive bond issue on the budget, on the ballot, and but that was when the economy was booming. And then when it tanked, so did his ratings, and I believe he left with a 23% approval rating. And
that was right around what Gray Davis had when he was recalled.
Yeah, it wasn't really good. And I think maybe his calling legislators girly men and those promises and everything, I think maybe it might be his legacy may be somewhat like a movie set. A lot of facade, maybe not a lot to back it up.
All right, Paul.
I would agree with the political reform, and definitely Governor Schwarzenegger's positions on climate change were, I think, going to be his lasting legacy, and his attention to the infrastructure needs of California. Remember, he pointed out that we need to work on the levees and some of the other things in our water system. But at this point, and it's going to be a few years before we can tell, but I think his legacy will be kind of negative. He showed how difficult it's going to be to balance a budget and how big a fiscal crisis we have in the fact that in 7 years, he didn't get anything done on it.
Judy?
A couple of thoughts. His legacy is the limitation of just what one person can accomplish, no matter that they have a bigger-than-life image. I think there's a legacy for the Valley in a couple of respects. One would be UC Merced. If you remember that as he came into office, there were a lot of people starting to doubt whether there should be a Valley campus. And he pushed immediately at his first State of the Union or State of the State speech, pushed it forward. And infrastructure, especially 99 and the whole San Joaquin Valley partnership. He has a legacy. It'll take a few years to regain it.
Well, that actually brings up another question. We now have a new governor, Governor Brown. Do you think he's going to be as receptive to Valley issues as Governor Schwarzenegger's been?
I would think not. Interestingly, before the election, we asked him specifically about the Valley and how he would help solve the Valley's problems, and his only answer was high-speed rail, which was disappointing that he would think that would rest there. He's not been known as being a particular friend of agriculture. The peripheral canal issue, by whatever name, could be a legacy, but for the first 2 years, he's going to be focused on the budget, and I don't think that's going to be Valley-specific.
Jim, what do you think?
Well, make no mistake, the Valley didn't have a better friend than Arnold Schwarzenegger, so I don't think that Jerry Brown's going to live up to that legacy. You know, he's a Northern California guy. He's, you know, was the mayor of Oakland. He's a big city guy. He understands the Valley in a lot of ways, but he's not going to pay as much attention, and I think that is not going to be good. The one thing he did do, though, is he continued to support the Partnership for the San Joaquin Valley. Some thought that he may pull that back.
Okay, well, very good. Well, when we get back, we'll ask the $28 billion question. How do we balance a state budget that is seriously out of whack? That conversation when we return. This is the Maddy Report.